Longtime play-by-play radio man for Tennessee baseball, John Wilkerson. Of course, will be on the call on the Volunteer Radio Network this weekend for the Fayetteville Super Regional. John, it was great to see you a few weeks ago in Fayetteville, and I kind of had a sense that we may see you guys again. I thought it might happen in Omaha. Where it's going to happen this weekend instead to get to Omaha. How are you?
Doing well. Sure do appreciate the invitation, and without a doubt, it's a shame this happens in the Super Regional round because I think you've got two teams that are both very capable of making it to Omaha, but, you know, the path is the path, and we'll see what happens.
John, how long have you been calling Tennessee games?
This is my 35th season with the program.
You're going back to 1990. That's was Delmonico the coach in 90?
It was Rod's second season. It was 2 years before Todd Helton's freshman year. That was my first year with the program. Mike Keith, who went on to become the voice of the Titans and now has returned to Big Orange Country as the new voice of the Vols with Bob Kessling's retirement. He was the primary voice for Tennessee baseball when I started being a part of the broadcast, and then when he moved on to Nashville, that's when I got to slide into the air chair, and it has been an incredible experience. And of course, with being reigning national champs, that was something that you couldn't help but think was possible, but such a dream come true. It has been really a just phenomenal run with Tony Vitello leading the way.
Yeah, Tony did not invent Tennessee baseball. He just took it to a level it had never been before, which is a national championship team, and also being probably to be looked at over these last 5 years as the premier program in the country. But Rod Delmonico had something going there for a while. 3 trips to Omaha, one of only 2 Hall of Famers that's ever played in the SEC. Helton's one of them. Frank Thomas is the other. So what happened in the time between Rod Delmonico and Tony Vitello? Because Tennessee baseball fell off tremendously, and I don't know if it ever really should fall off the way that it did.
Yeah, it was something. It was a shame for Rod's run to end the way it did. Rod thought for sure that he thought he had nailed down an NCAA tournament spot because in that SEC tournament beat Vanderbilt right out of the chute. But they wound up, the selection committee took Memphis instead of Tennessee. And then there was a row that kind of bubbled to the surface between him and the athletic director. And so after his time at the helm, he had 699 wins, and he was not retained. And they went Mike Hamilton was the athletics director. He had pegged Bruce Pearl as a wonderful hire to breathe new life in Tennessee basketball, and he thought he could go out and get the next Bruce Pearl, but of baseball. So he hired Todd Raleigh, who had done some incredible things at Western Carolina, and it just didn't click for Coach. That's Cal Raleigh's father, who Cal is one of the best home run hitters and the best catcher or so in the majors right now. But so Todd, unfortunately, didn't work for him. And then Dave Serrano, who had been an assistant with Rod, he was at Cal State Fullerton and had led programs at Irvine, and as well as taking over the Titans to the College World Series. And so he came back to Knoxville, and I think it was just that was at the time that the powers that be, you had to have power arms, you had to have power bats, and Tennessee just didn't get enough of it across the board in Dave's 6 years at the helm. And so when it was the time for John Curry, the athletic director then, he took a good look around, talked to some baseball folks, and said if you could hire anybody to lead your program that was an up-and-comer, who would it be? And it was on Dave Van Horn's staff, and that was Tony Vitello. And it has been incredible since then, but there were 10 long years between Rod's last year and Tony's first year that there were a lot of rough seasons.
Can you point to a couple of reasons why Tony has been able to resurrect Tennessee baseball in the way that he has? Because you're just mentioning 2 really good baseball coaches there that couldn't pull it off. This is an incredibly difficult league to try to build up from the bottom. I mean, we see that in football too. I think we see that in baseball too, specifically right now with Missouri. But, I think Tennessee puts more resources into baseball by far than Missouri did. What is it about Tony that was able to get this program to where it is now?
From the time that they put the orange blazer on his back, he's had a vision. He knew exactly what he wanted to do when he got the chance to run his own program. And I do think just consistency and continuity has been a huge part of what has been the growth and the success, because not only did he have the image of the program that he wanted, but, I mean, Josh Elander has been here for every year. Frank Anderson, the pitching coach, has been here every year. You've got Ross Kivett, who's been here for all but 3 years. He makes a return to the staff this year. And Quentin Eberhardt, their strength coach, he wanted to hire Frank Anderson. He wanted to hire Quentin Eberhardt. Those were his two most important hires, he said, when he got the job. And, of course, we know he's an outstanding recruiter. So he's been able to foster those relationships, get guys to Knoxville, and really just the development for players has been off the charts. And so he's had wave after wave of guys. I mean, his first year, Tennessee's expected to win 7. I mean, actually, the number was right around 6.5. They had won 7 SEC games the year before. They were supposed to go less than that in 2018. And lo and behold, if Tennessee can win the series at Missouri, they're on their way to the SEC tournament. They won 12 conference games his first year. His second year, they make their return trip to the NCAA tournament since 2005 with Luke Hochaver and company. So I think, again, he's had a plan. He's stuck to it, and it's worked. It's been everything that I think he had envisioned for the program. And now, of course, with the fact that they are the reigning champs, you're finding out the win indeed blows hardest at the top of the flagpole. But again, I just think continuity with staff, approach, the way that they recruit, how hard they recruit, all of that, I think, has been the building blocks and the foundation where Tennessee baseball is today.
What does his emotion have to do with it? Because I saw this the 3 years he was the hitting coach at Arkansas that I was doing radio, and I had a difficult time pairing up the Tony that I knew off the field with the guy that you see on the field, who is as emotional as I've ever seen any coach at any level. And he's just not that way off the field. He's quiet sometimes. I mean, incredibly intelligent, a lot of fun to talk to, but not the same guy on the field. He's not the only competitor that's been like that. But I just wonder, because this Tennessee baseball program in these last 5-6 years, John, I feel has reflected that intensity and emotion. Sometimes it might bubble over a little bit too much. And you could say the same thing for Tony in some cases. But it must have taken a little bit of time to be able to balance getting to know Tony off the field and how you know him there, and then watching what he can be like during the games.
Yeah, I'll never forget. It's the first weekend 2018, and it just so happens that he is making his debut as Tennessee's head coach, and the team in the other dugout is Rob Vaughn, Alabama's head coach, when he started at Maryland. And the first time that there was a question and call, and I mean, it was a dead sprint from the home plate side of Tennessee's dugout, screaming out to first base to get to the umpire, and, I mean, just got right after it. And now that was something, because after the initial heat of the moment was past, there was just a brief second, and then the first base umpire went over to him and kind of, you could tell, was saying, you can come out, you can question it, just don't do it like that ever again. And so I think that there is a lot of emotion, and at the same time, what he preaches to his players, that he wants guys that are emotional, but don't let them get the better of you during the course of a game. And it's much easier said than done. But I do think that there's passion there, and I think there is the desire and the object to win each and every time out. That's something that he holds. The focus is there for games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, same as it is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's just you need to make sure that you focus on what you can do to win the game in front of you and then go from there. But, yes, it is without question. I do think that it has gone down a complete notch in terms of hair on fire to really, something that's just smoldering. So it doesn't take much for it to get to a point where it can be not necessarily a full-blown eruption, but I do think that a lot of his players follow his lead in that regard, and I do think he is trying to be not necessarily a kinder, gentler head coach, but I do think that he is somebody who does a much better job of managing just how hot that fire burns, because it can be something that can get in the way. whether it be if you get ejected in a second time, of course, you missed a game and things like that. So there is, as you mentioned, a very stark contrast between the player, the individual, and the personality off the field versus how it goes when it's game time.
Interesting. I feel like, and I think maybe the reason, if I were to just think for Tony for a moment, is you don't want your emotions to put your team in a difficult position, specifically by getting ejected and then being suspended. And I think, the situation with Cannon Peebles is exactly that. And a lot of questions have come in during the show today if there could be an edge for Arkansas in game one because there's a redshirt freshman, I think it's Stone Lawless, that will catch. And you know that relationship between pitching staffs and catchers are just so amazingly important. And it's nothing against Stone Lawless. I'm sure he's an amazingly talented kid. It's just he hasn't caught a lot of these pitchers in games that he's going to be catching on Saturday. And if you could tell us a little bit about him.
Well, Stone, he is, as you mentioned, a redshirt freshman from Huntsville, Alabama. He's one of those guys that played a number of sports. He was a really good quarterback for his high school before he decided to focus purely on baseball. And he's somebody who was with the team every step of the way last year. And he never got to play in a game, but he was the bullpen catcher essentially, and he would be the guy that would warm up pitchers getting ready to go in the game. So he handled guys like Marcus Phillips, as well as all the staff, and whether they were getting ready for whatever relief appearance. So I do think that he has, and he's very familiar with every single pitcher and he was also first half of the SEC schedule. He was kind of the Saturday catcher. Game one would be Cannon, game two would be Stone, and then go back to Peebles for game three. So I do think that he's a very capable receiver, and I do think he's very familiar with who he would be catching in game one. But, yeah, without a doubt, for the last month and a half, it's been Cannon Peebles catching every Southeastern Conference or big-time game with the regional. And so I think that is something to circle. And it's one of those situations to where there's so much jawing that's going on back and forth that, as Coach Vitello spoke to during his post-game press conference, that it wasn't anything that Cannon said that hadn't been said by either dugout in the direction of the other. It's just that he wasn't aware whether or not the home plate umpire had told the two catchers, one at the plate, one behind it, to cool it. And then there was, as the Wake Forest catcher celebrated the strikeout, as he should, that's when Cannon had a retort. That was what led to the ejection. And he said it's something you can't let happen, and because exactly what the situation is, that Tennessee will go into game one on Saturday with Stone Lawless catching. Not that he can't handle it. It's just that Cannon Peebles has been a rock for Tennessee behind the plate now for almost 2 months.
If I were to think of the main strength for Tennessee, it's a bit of the same strength of Arkansas. They can overpower you at times in terms of power at the plate, velocity on the pitcher's mound. It's like these teams, they may play the game a little bit differently, but they do mirror each other somewhat in their strengths. But where I do see some separation is consistency in the field specifically. And I think that played out in the regular season matchup too, John.
It did. And that has been really when you got off to an okay start. I mean, when Tennessee had defensive lapses, they were in a position at the points in time to where, as you're talking about with the lineup, they had either run production and or strong outings on the mound that picked up the defense. There was just a bobble when we got to week 2 of SEC play. That's when Gavin Keelan, who was at second, Dean Curley playing short as he did all of last year, and Keelan got hurt. And so then it was kind of a rotating. Is it going to be Ariel Antigua, who himself is a sophomore? He's probably the best defender that Tennessee has as an individual. But unfortunately for Ariel, he hadn't had enough reps at the plate to where he is a consistent, productive part of a lineup. So then they started moving Manny Marin, who's really found a home at third now. He played some at second. He played some at short. Curley moved over to third. There were issues in terms of that Friday night game for Tennessee at LSU where They give up 6 unearned runs in the bottom of the ninth, and LSU goes from trailing 3-0 to walking it off 6-3. So I think since Gavin Keelan got back in the lineup, which he missed 3 whole weeks of SEC play, they've kind of put him at short, and they've got Marin at third and Dean Curley at second, which is exactly what the lineup was when Tennessee went to Fayetteville just a couple of weeks ago. But yes, this has been the least consistent team. This has been the poorest fielding team that Tony Vitello has had as the head coach at Tennessee, and at times it can be something where you can see exactly what the player was thinking about doing. It's just that it's been a failure to execute, a failure to play catch, or to be able to consistently get a strong throw to right base. So I think that is, to me, the biggest separator between these two teams is that just looking at exactly how, first of all, you guys are in the outfield, especially. I love your third baseman. I think he's just magnificent with how hard he plays. I mean, when he went head first into the tarp at the first series,
he was going to break his neck, John.
Pops right back up. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't help but think that. So I do think that is a significant that's a significant check in Arkansas's favor. But Tennessee has played a better brand. I mean, with the season on the line, Tennessee played a crisp and perfect game defensively against Wake Forest. And here's hoping that everybody can just realize that you can't think about where you've struggled in the past. It's all about playing the very best you can and focus on being able to get the out that's in front of you.
Well, John, I know you're like me. This will be the 5th Super Regional in a row that you're calling. You've been to Omaha 3 of the last 5 years. You never take these kind of events for granted. And I always appreciate you making time for us, and always enjoy visiting you when you're at Balmer or for Lindsey Nelson. And I'll look forward to seeing you this series Saturday. Thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely, and it is. I mean, strength against strength. Tennessee's never lost a Super Regional on the road, and Arkansas has won 4 out of the 5 that they've hosted. So I think this is going to be the marquee matchup for this upcoming round, and I can't wait to see how it plays out.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your #1 source for all your sports betting action. With baseball season in full swing, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, scores, and even live in-game betting while the games are being played. We keep the dog days of summer rolling with the largest selection of odds on everything. With updated odds on the MLB, UFC, and boxing to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.